Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We have more gaming and PlayStation news, rumours and leaks to go over. If you enjoyed today's video, please show your support by hitting that like button, and don't forget to tune into the PlayStation podcast every Sunday at 7 PM. So Microsoft is reportedly setting itself up for another round of layoffs, this time affecting more areas of the company, including its Xbox gaming division, according to sources cited in a Bloomberg report. This upcoming round of job cuts is part of a broader reorganization effort across the company. The report suggests that the layoffs could begin as soon as next week. This wouldn't be the first time Microsoft has reduced its workforce recently. In fact, it's part of a larger pattern that's been going on for the past year and a half. Since January 2023, Microsoft has gone through several rounds of downsizing, with each one impacting different departments, including key players in the gaming side of the business. To put things in perspective, back in early 2023, Microsoft announced that it would be laying off around 10,000 employees. That amounted to roughly 4.5% of its global workforce. At the same time, the company didn't focus heavily on gaming in its official statements, but follow-up reports made it clear that the cuts will hit several studios under its Xbox umbrella. This included Bethesda Game Studios and 343 Industries, the team behind Halo Infinite. At 343, the layoffs reportedly affected many of those working on the single-player elements of the game. A year later, in January 2024, Microsoft once again trimmed its workforce, this time letting go around 1,900 employees. These cuts stretched across Activision Blizzard, Bethesda, and Xbox. The decision came after Microsoft completed its acquisition of Activision Blizzard and then assessed how to best integrate the new teams. Phil Spencer, head of Microsoft Gaming, explained that they had worked with leadership at Activision Blizzard to identify overlapping roles and set priorities. The layoffs, according to Spencer, were part of a strategy to focus on the areas with the most potential for growth. Then in September 2024, another 650 roles were eliminated. This wave targeted mostly corporate and support roles in the gaming division. Again, the company said this was about aligning its post-acquisition structure and preparing for long-term success. Most recently, in January 2025, Microsoft implemented more layoffs, this time without giving exact numbers. However, it was confirmed that employees across multiple areas were impacted, including Xbox, the sales division, and even the company's security teams. When you step back and look at the big picture, this marks the fourth significant round of job cuts related to Xbox in just 18 months. Whilst Microsoft hasn't been alone in making such decisions, tech companies across the board have tightened up in similar ways. It still signals a period of major change, especially for those following the future of Xbox and its first-party studios. I suppose it doesn't help when you have declining Xbox console hardware sales, struggling to sell games on your own platform. Releasing games on every platform also doesn't help attract new gamers to the Xbox ecosystem. Added to the difficult times that tech companies are facing post-COVID, all that combined, and the fact that the return on investment on their studio acquisitions over the past 10 years will take an eternity to pay back, it only adds to the woes and accelerates the mass layoffs across Microsoft. Now, I've stated in many videos previously, it's never a good sign that devs are being let go, or anyone for that matter across the industry, and I hope those that are impacted find new opportunities once they have left the business. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this, and let's move on, because whilst Microsoft is restructuring, and they continue to do that behind the scenes, Microsoft is also exploring new territory within the gaming space. One of its latest moves is a collaboration with Meta, the company behind the popular Quest line of virtual reality headsets. Together, they've launched a special edition Meta Quest 3S headset that's branded with the Xbox name. This is not a brand new headset built from scratch by Microsoft. Instead, it's more of a partnership where Microsoft is piggybacking on the Meta's existing VR technology. The result is a co-branded version of the MetaQuest 3S that gives users access to both Meta's VR content and Microsoft's Xbox cloud gaming service. That means people can use the headset to play Meta's native VR games and also stream Xbox titles, essentially using the headset as a virtual screen for traditional games. This new headset is being marketed as a limited edition product. It's priced at $399 and comes with some extras, including accessories styled after the Xbox Series X, a 3-month subscription to Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, and 3 months of Meta Horizon Plus. So while it costs about $100 more than the standard Quest 3S, the added value might appeal to fans of both brands. It's also worth pointing out that this isn't Microsoft's first foray into the VR space. In the past, the company developed the HoloLens, which leaned more into augmented reality for professional use. Now, with this partnership, Microsoft seems to be testing the waters in consumer VR, but without fully committing to developing its own device like Sony has with the PSVR 2. In fact, the PSVR 2, which is Sony's high-end virtual reality headset for the PlayStation 5, has been one of the major players in the VR market, often seen as a direct competitor to Meta's Quest devices. But unlike Sony, Microsoft hasn't shown the same level of dedication or content support for VR gaming. The Xbox branded Meta headset feels more like an experiment than a full-on pivot. Microsoft seems to be focused on expanding its Xbox ecosystem rather than entering the hardware arms race in VR. As the company said in a recent blog post, their goal is to make gaming more accessible by allowing people to play their favorite titles anywhere, anytime. And with cloud gaming now part of Meta's headset offering, that goal is slowly becoming more of a reality. I mean, what are your thoughts on this, guys? To me, this just feels like a Meta VR headset with an Xbox sticker on. I'm not into VR yet. I'm not in that space. I will be later this year when I pick up my PSVR 2, which I believe is one of the major players in the marketplace. Will this collaboration between Meta and Xbox drive more people towards the VR market space? I'd like to think it will, but what do you guys think? Is this big competition for the PSVR 2? Guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below and let's move on. Days Gone Remastered just got a new patch this week thanks to developer Bend Studio. The big update brings a number of bug fixes and gameplay improvements to help smooth out the overall experience for players. If you've been diving into the post-apocalyptic world on PlayStation 5, this update might make your ride across zombie-infested Oregon a little bit more stable and enjoyable. So, what's actually changed in this patch? This latest patch addresses a few areas across the board, from performance tweaks to fixing crashes and even polishing up some of the smaller details in the game. One of these standout changes involves the Freakers, those zombie-like enemies you've been fighting since day one. Now, if you take them down with throwable weapons like grenades or Molotov cocktails, they'll actually explode on impact. It's a small touch, but it adds a bit more visual feedback and makes those tools feel more impactful. Stability is a big deal, especially in open world games like Days Gone, where things can get chaotic quickly. This update includes several crash fixes aimed at preventing random game interruptions. If you've ever had the game freeze or crash during key moments, like fighting a horde or traveling between missions, this patch should help smooth out those issues. The game's photo mode is popular amongst fans who like to capture the horror and beauty of the world, or just take cool action shots. One annoying issue has now been fixed. Adaptive triggers will automatically turn off while you're using the photo mode. That makes it easier to line up your shots without interference from the controller's haptics. Sony Bend Studio also made a few corrections in the accessibility settings. These changes are important because they help make the game more playable for a wider range of players. The fixes here are mainly about making sure the options work as intended and don't conflict with each other. For those who haven't checked it out yet, or maybe you're thinking about jumping back in, Days Gone Remastered is the PlayStation 5 version of the original PS4 title that came out a few years ago. This enhanced edition launched in April 2025 and brought several upgrades with it, including improved graphics, better load times, and more options to tailor the gameplay experience. One of the big features added to the remaster is the permadeath mode, where dying even once ends your playthrough completely. There's also a speedrun mode for those who want to test how fast they can finish the game. On top of that, there's the Horde Assault mode, which basically is an endurance mode where you face a wave after wave of freakers and see how long you can survive for. It's clear that Sony Bend is still actively supporting the remastered version even months after release. That's always a good sign for a game's long-term health, especially in a single-player title where updates often slow down after launch. While this patch might not be game-changing in terms of adding brand new features, it shows that the developers are still listening to the community and working to polish the experience. If you've been holding off playing Days Gone Remastered or ran into any of those issues before, now might be a good time to jump back in and see what's been improved. For a full breakdown of the changes that this patch offers, you can check out the detailed patch notes linked to the video description. Guys, let's move on. Sony has announced a fresh lineup of games coming to PlayStation VR 2. The update includes 4 new titles, 3 of them are scheduled to release this year. While this may not fully quiet some concerns about Sony's level of commitment to PSVR 2, it does show that they're still working to expand the platform's game library in 2025. One of the more artistic and abstract games announced is Dreams of Another, developed by Q Games. If that name sounds familiar, it's because they're the same team behind the Pixel Junk series. This new title is led by Bayon, the creative mind behind Pixel Junk Eden, and it brings a mix of experimental design and interactive visuals to the VR scene. In Dreams of Another, players step into the role of man in pajamas, but this isn't your typical VR adventure. The game is built around a unique concept: no creation without destruction. In practice, that means that when you shoot in the game, you're not just attacking enemies, you're actually building the world. Environments are formed in real time using circular particles that flow out of your actions, creating a visually striking effect known as point cloud rendering. Early demos of the game, played outside of the VR mode, I'm already impressed with their distinctive style, but in virtual reality, the same effect is expected to feel even more immersive, especially as you switch between first and third person views. Dreams of Another is slated to release later this year and could be a standout for those who enjoy visually driven, thought-provoking experiences. Another title set to arrive soon is Grit and Valor 1949. This one blends tactical gameplay with a historical twist. It's a roguelike strategy game where players command troops in an alternate version of World War II. The gameplay takes place on a tactical grid where decisions are made like moves on a chessboard. Each battle is different, keeping the experience fresh and unpredictable. And because it's a roguelite, you'll be managing risk and adapting strategies as you go, failing, learning, and trying again with each new attempt. Grit and Valor 1949 is scheduled to launch on August the 21st, and it brings a more cerebral approach to VR that could appeal to fans of turn-based strategy games or historical fiction. Now, coming from Studio Chaya, the creators of Manifold Garden, Hotel Infinity looks to carry forward that same blend of surreal design and mind-bending puzzles. In this game, you explore a mysterious hotel filled with strange architecture and tricky riddles. If you played Manifold Garden, it has a unique approach to space, gravity, and structure, and Hotel Infinity seems to be continuing in that tradition. The exact gameplay details still haven't been revealed, but based on the studio's previous work and concept of solving puzzles inside a visually abstract hotel, this could be a standout puzzle experience in VR mode. It's also arriving later this year, adding more depth to the PSVR 2's upcoming library. Now, the final game announced is Mitoria, but unlike others, this one won't arrive until sometime next year. Now, Mitoria is described as a cosmic survival racer. Players take on the role of a meteor flying through space, navigating through asteroid fields, electrically charged debris, and icy zones. The challenge here is to survive while moving as fast as possible. You'll collect energy crystals to grow in size and pick up stardust to increase your speed. But as with any racing game, there is a risk versus reward element. Do you focus on getting bigger and stronger to withstand hits, or do you go all in on speed and risk being fragile? Mitoria looks like a fast-paced, arcade-style experience with a sci-fi twist, something different for the PSVR 2 library, and a good option for players who enjoy twitchy, high-action gameplay in VR. While this lineup adds some excitement, it arrives amid some concern over Sony's overall support for PSVR 2. In their most recent State of Play showcase, a video event where Sony announces upcoming games, only one VR game was mentioned: Thief VR Legacy of Shadow. And even that game isn't exclusive to PSVR 2, it'll be released on other VR platforms as well. Some fans and critics have expressed some disappointment in how little attention Sony has given to PSVR 2, especially when compared to the original PSVR. Part of that frustration also stems from the recent news that Beat Saber, one of the most popular and iconic VR games, is no longer being supported on PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5. Now, that game, Beat Saber, was developed by Beat Games, which is now owned by Meta, Sony's biggest competitor in the VR space. And as mentioned earlier in the video, Microsoft recently revealed a limited edition Meta Quest 3 headset with an official Xbox branded design, adding further competition within the VR space. The announcement of these 4 PSVR 2 titles is definitely a step in the right direction for Sony, and each game offers something different, from experimental art and strategy to puzzles and high-speed action. But these updates come during a time when Sony's broader commitment to VR is being questioned, with major players like Meta and Microsoft making their moves, and titles like Beat Saber shifting support away from Sony platforms. it's more important now than ever before for PSVR 2 to build a strong and consistent library of exclusive, high-quality games. Even more so now that I'm focusing on what games are on the PSVR 2, because it's now on my radar in terms of a platform that I'm going to be playing later this year. Guys, let me know your thoughts on this whole VR space. Is Meta and Microsoft bigger competition to Sony now than ever before? Let me know your thoughts in the comments about this topic and the other content discussed today, and I'll catch you on the next video.